like you said, let's jump into that NFL. And we had some interesting news on Adam Schefter's podcast coming into week one. They talked with the Washington football team, and apparently they're down to 8 potential names: the Red Hogs, Defenders, the Armada, Presidents, Brigade, Commanders, Red Wolves, and the Washington football team. Brett, I haven't found a line on what the Washington football team's name's going to be next season. I'm kind of backing Washington football team or the Commanders. Those are the two names that I really am seeing or kind of like speak to me. What about you?
Yeah, I would probably just stay with the football team at this point. We're all used to it, right?
Yeah. I think they don't want to make waves with whatever name they pick. They don't want it to be a big media conversation or anything. They don't want to drag up the past of why they're changing the name. So if they just stick with the Washington football team, then they've already made the name change and it's not even really news anymore. It goes by a news cycle super quickly. So I really wouldn't be surprised if WFT is that team's initials moving forward for the foreseeable future. But Brett, it's going to be the WFT for this season. We at least know that for sure. And they're playing an interesting game that we're going to talk about a little later. But let's talk about Thursday night, because I got to tip my cap to myself. I was right last episode. The line was at -7.5 in favor of the Bucs. I had a feeling there was going to be some more attention, more action going to this game as we got closer to Thursday, and I was right. It moved a full point. The Bucs are -8.5 point favorites. I've even seen some odds boost and some specials at different sports books trying to offer the Bucs at -9.5 and boost those odds. That feels a little too high for me to at least place a bet, but I could see the Bucs absolutely dominating the Cowboys and getting a two-digit score. Do you have any feel in this game for tomorrow?
I don't, Higgins. There's nothing I would tell someone to back me on because I'm a little nervous about the weather. I've seen it might be raining tomorrow. Now it's Florida, so you never know. It could rain. It could be sunshine. It could be hailing. Florida weather is by the minute, so you never truly know. But the rain would scare me off a little bit of the over. Two offensive linemen may be out for the Dallas Cowboys. Lael Collins dealing with what Jerry Jones called like a normal stinger, but a stinger that has kept him out most of training camp. And Zach Martin was on the COVID list. Now, he could test negative twice in, these
He's
24
not eligible
hours.
by
Oh,
Thursday,
he's not?
unfortunately.
Okay,
He
perfect.
he is vaccinated, but his testing
He
came
didn't get
back on
the
Sunday. He needs a full 5 days, so Friday is when
No,
he would
no,
be
no. He
eligible.
could have tested negative on Wednesday. I didn't see the report, but I was watching ESPN. I know he could have tested negative today and and had another negative test tomorrow AM.
Okay, yeah, it's an interesting potential
Oh,
because
my bad. I cut off. Sorry.
earlier in the week, I hadn't really heard of the possibility of him being able to still be eligible for Thursday. I'm looking now; he was officially ruled out on Wednesday afternoon, so
Perfect.
Zach Martin
Wednesday
will not be
afternoon.
there. Meanwhile, the Bucs, they're bringing back all 22 of their starters from last year. Lots of synergy. The Cowboys, who are bringing back a quarterback that hasn't been under center in quite a few games, and now might be potentially missing two of his offensive linemen, speaks very poorly for that Cowboys potential in week one. I'm still very much on that Bucs bandwagon for that game. I'm very much fade the Cowboys in terms of this season. If you remember, I took them to have under 9 wins total for this season, but I'm not doubling down on that -8.5. I'm sticking with my -7 that I bumped up and took -125 additional juice on last episode. I'm just going to sit with that one, I think.
Yeah, no, that's a good call, Higgins. Chris Godwin, also questionable for Thursday night. He suffered a groin injury in practice on Tuesday. Did not practice Wednesday. Is going to be a true game time decision. They're going to have him test that out. So lots of injuries to keep my eye on before Thursday's kickoff, Higgins. I think you did a great job beating the Bucs. I did not beat the Bucs, so I probably need to wait till all that last second info's out. You gave me some good one. You confirmed Zach Martin's not playing, so there we go. One stone turned. We just need to turn over the other two, and then we'll have all the info we need to bet. But Sunday, Higgins, I got all the info I need to bet on the Jaguars Texans game. Tyrod Taylor is starting for the Houston Texans. Meanwhile, the Urban Meyer, Trevor Lawrence era is getting underway in Jacksonville. Higgins, I don't know what the Texans will look like at the end of the year, but for week one, they need to be bigger underdogs to the Jaguars. I get it. Trevor Lawrence, first ever NFL start. No one's seen him. You have no idea if he's going to be any good. But listen, this kid was the number one overall pick. The Jaguars' offensive line for a bad team isn't that bad because they've spent money on guards and centers in the past. Their tackle positions are a little weak. You'd like, Cam Robinson to continue to develop and others. But Norvell at the guard is one of the best guards in the NFL. Lindell at center, one of the best centers in the NFL. So Trevor Lawrence has some protection. This isn't like Daniel Jones or Zach Wilson stepping up there with nobody in front of them. So I think Trevor will have some time to deliver some passes, especially against Houston's defense, which again, they traded away Bradley Roby this week. They traded away Shaq Lawson to the Jets. They traded away J.J. Watt in the offseason. I could not name a person on this Texans defense if they didn't have Laramie Tunsil and Brandon Cook still on the roster. I might not be able to name too many Texans, Higgins. So give me Jacksonville -3. I know it's -118 juice. That's just an indication that this number is getting bigger before Sunday. So I'm hopping on it Wednesday night.
Absolutely. Take the potential for a push in a game that's going to be, in my opinion, between two teams that are going to be fighting for a top five pick potentially. I do not have a lot of faith in Trevor Lawrence with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I can explain it, but personally, I think the issues with the Jacksonville Jaguars are much larger than just that quarterback position. So I'm staying far, far, far away from that week one game. I have no read on that whatsoever. Best of luck to you. You're right. It's very hard to name a player that's on that Texans roster right now. So just off of that, I could name more Jacksonville players. That is right there. Maybe a reason to be backing them a little bit, but that's not a Sunday game that's really catching my attention. I did mention the Washington football team and how we'd be talking about them later. The Washington football team, they're hosting the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday. And I think Justin Herbert and the Chargers are going to come in and they're going to get a week one win on the road. And we're going to get some confirmation that Justin Herbert's not going to go through a sophomore slump because he has all of these weapons around him that just, to me, speak of a very dangerous offense potentially. Meanwhile, there's a lot of talk about Antonio Gibson, whether it be fantasy, whether it be otherwise. There's Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback at the helm for Ron Rivera. I don't have a lot of confidence in this Washington football team. I don't have a confidence in really any NFC East team again this year. So I really expect the Chargers, who in that AFC West are going to be battling, trying to make it challenging with the Chargers or the Chiefs. I don't think they necessarily do challenge the Chiefs for that AFC West division, but they will, in my opinion, be fighting for a playoff spot. And I think on week one, they're going to get a strong start with a win. So I'm taking the Chargers at -1 at -105 just because the spread is so close. And I don't see a point in taking the money line at -108 when I have a chance for a -1 push and slightly better odds with 4 cents better on the VIG.
Yeah, I think if you like the Chargers, Higgins, where you bet it is the right side. I think my personal take, and I have not bet this game yet. I may on Sunday. I may wake up and be like, you know what? The Chargers are flying all the way across the country. That's tough. I haven't seen the Chargers complete a fourth quarter comeback since they drafted Philip Rivers. So I can't take them as favorites. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. New Chargers regime. Brendan Staley, first year head coach for the Chargers, takes over for Anthony Lynn. Maybe Anthony Lynn's play calling in the fourth quarter was the problem. Justin Herbert was there last year, but he was working with Anthony Lynn, who was there for the end of the Philip Rivers era. So it's all kind of tied together. So it finally feels like a fresh start, but they got to prove it to me, kind of like what you were saying with BYU. The history of the Chargers being favorites, you're going to lose. So I just can't jump off the history yet. But there's reason to be optimistic, as you pointed out, Higgins.
It's a very good point to bring up the cross country flight from the West Coast to the East Coast because in the NFL that has known to be significantly impactful, especially with certain teams. So that is a note to take a look at, Brett. There's another game that I'm looking at though between two teams that I think are going to be very competitive this year. I think they are going to absolutely potentially each fight each other in the AFC Championship for a spot in the Super Bowl. Both these teams, I think, have the rosters to do that. Whether they can make it that far in the season is up to them. But the Browns at the Chiefs in week one, I'm taking the Browns plus 6.5 here because, like we saw last year with the Super Bowl and what happened to Patrick Mahomes was they got pressure on him. That offensive line got exploited. And the Browns, they have a pretty good offensive line with Myles Garrett, with Jadeveon Clowney. And I still have some question marks with the offensive line that they brought in for Patrick Mahomes. I need to see how he gets protected for full four quarters with this new line that they've put together. I could very much potentially be wrong. Andy Reid could have figured out that line. The Chiefs come in, they win by two full scores, maybe even more. But I think that this game's going to be very competitive. I think that this could actually be more close to a 3-4 point game, actually. I think it's going to be within one score. So I'm taking the Browns plus 6.5 just because I really expect this to be a great game and maybe a precursor to a game we see later on in the playoffs.
Yeah, Higgins, I gotta say, I was pretty impressed with how the Chiefs built up that O line this offseason. Traded for Orlando Brown from the Baltimore Ravens. Now he's going to be playing left tackle, the position he played in college. But the Ravens obviously have one of the best left tackles in the entire world. So he was playing right tackle in Baltimore. A little bit of a switcher position for him. So I understand why he'd be a little nervous there. They get Joe Thuney from New England. New England had two really good left guards, so they trade away the one on the bigger contract. Joe Thuney was a Pro Bowler 2 years ago, Higgins, so that's a big ad. Creed Humphreys, the rookie from Oklahoma, another big time player, arguably the best center in the draft, so they land him. Trey Smith from Tennessee was a late pick in the NFL draft, but I don't think it was talent. I think it was more, character issue red flags. I think they might have gotten a steal there. I also think they're expected to get Duvernay Tardif back, who took off to be a doctor in Canada last year, which was really noble. But he was obviously a big piece as a starting guard on a Super Bowl championship team to go missing. So I'm with you, Higgins. The O line was a problem last year. I'm not as worried about it this year. I think you're right though in talking about the Browns pass rush. I mean, is there a better 1-2 punch in the NFL than Clowney and Garrett? Clowney's sack numbers aren't there, but I just those two guys coming after your quarterback. I do not want to have to deal with those problems.
Yeah, then the fact that there are so many new pieces for the Chiefs' offensive line, to your point about Duvernay Tardif, he is expected to be ready for the season opener. He actually broke his hand back in the summer, so he was recovering from that, but he's expected to be ready. There's plenty of pieces that should be fully capable for that Chiefs line. I just don't know if all of those pieces will be cohesive in week one against a challenging defensive line like that. So I'm expecting it to be a bit of a closer game. It could come down to a final drive and the Chiefs end up scoring a touchdown instead of kicking a field goal, and I lose because I took plus 6.5. But I I do like the plus 6.5 here because I think it's going to be a very, Very entertaining game. And also, my last name's Higgins, and the Browns have a guy with the name Higgins on his team, so I got to back him a little bit, right?
Absolutely. Well, by that logic, go hop on the Bengals too. But I'm going to hop on one more game, Higgins, before we get out of here. The 49ers take on the Lions. This is a West Coast team traveling east, but not all the way east. They're only traveling to the central time zone. Doesn't have the same effect, but probably something I should be considering as well. The Lions this offseason, Higgins, I don't know where that team is heading. DeAndre Swift is expected to play week 1. Dan Campbell said he's good to go. But how healthy is he? We don't really know. He was injured a lot in training camp. He was injured this week. But like you said, all good to go right now. We'll see if he plays all 4 quarters. The 49ers expected to start Jimmy Garoppolo. I expect him to make it through this game because I don't think the Lions are very good. In fact, I expect I'll be fading the Lions a lot this year, Higgins. And opening day, a 7.5 point spread. I think San Francisco could honestly win this score game by 21. Now, I wouldn't bet it at 21, right? But couldn't you write the narrative that they win 42-21 and just blow them out from beginning to end? I could absolutely see that happening.
I absolutely could see that happening too because we have a 49ers defense that should be rather familiar with Detroit Lions' new quarterback, Jared Goff. Now, that should mean that Goff is also familiar with that defense, but I don't have confidence in his cohesion with his new team, with anything that offense is really doing over in Detroit yet. And you got San Francisco coming back from one of their most injured seasons in franchise history. So that defense took a lot of hits last year to some very big name players. I expect them to be able to respond a bit better this year. -7.5. It's that hook that honestly kind of kept me off of that line, Brett. If it was down at -7 and offered a push possibility, I probably would have taken it at that key number. But at -7.5, I'm gonna wait because we got some time till Sunday.
Yeah, you have some time, Higgins. It's -110 right now, it looks like. So it doesn't appear that there's going to be a ton of line movement. I don't think the 49ers or the Lions are particularly public teams. So you might be good waiting till Sunday. You might still get the same line.
They're also not states that have active sports betting markets set up
Michigan.
yet. Michigan does. California does not, though, which people would probably be a little bit more inclined to be betting on the 49ers this year than the Lions, if I had to guess.
I would think so.